Добрый день, уважаемые участники, руководители
Good
департаментов.
afternoon, dear participants, heads of departments and ministries of the Russian Federation, heads of trade councils, trade missions, heads of large international oil and gas corporations from Russia and from Russia and other countries. I'm Alexei Mikhailov, and I'm going to moderate the first session of the International Business Mission for the participants of the oil and gas market of Russia, the Middle East, and CIS countries. Let me start with several housekeeping statements that will make it more convenient and comfortable for all of us. We are broadcasting in 4 languages, that is French, Arabic, English, and Russian. In order to select a language, you will need to enter the menu. There is an interpretation button in the bottom, and there you can select a particular language channel. Also, I would like to remind the international participants about the platform we are using, oilandgasbusinessmission.com, and you can actually find a link leading to it in the Zoom chat. Also, please note that we will absolutely love you to get registered on this platform so that in the following month, until the 10th of December, your company can participate in B2B meetings with Russian companies. This event is being organized by Russian Expert Center, which is a state institution for the support of business development, effectively, or expert initiatives of Russian corporations, primarily providing them with financial support. This business mission is focusing on the oil and gas industry. The oil and gas industry is a strategic platform for the country, which is used both to support the, the run and the developed modes of the country. And it is going to help us in developing our relations, economic and trade relations, with Middle East and African countries and the CIS countries as well. Participating in the online conference today are over 150 companies representing both the Russian Federation and our esteemed international partners. The plenary session will consist of 2 parts. Part 1 will consist of official addresses by high-ranking officials from the Russian Federation. And we are going to hear from Russian and international companies later about their experience around the world, as well as the prospects of the heavy engineering industry and the existing barriers in overseas markets. This will be followed by a series of business meetings, and you will be able to find the schedule in your personal account. I invite us all to start, and the first official address will be delivered by Alexei Gospodarov, who is the director of the Department for International Cooperation of the Ministry of Energy of the Russian Federation. Alexei, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I actually expected to be the second person to address such a distinguished audience. So this is a short address and a welcome speech. I absolutely love to welcome you all. As I was preparing for my speech today, I was thinking how important it would be for me not to step on anybody's toes, because I spent 4 years working for the Ministry of Energy, and now Ministry of Trade, and I'm working for the Ministry of Energy, responsible for international cooperation.
Тезис донести до участников. Ну, и решил, наверное, сконцентрироваться на имеющихся трендах.
So I was thinking about the right way to start it all, and I decided to focus on the current trends and challenges in this industry. And here I would like to focus on the things that our analysts see, because naturally, we've got our challenges around expanding our experts, and we certainly want to be as grounded in the existing reality as possible. And I'm certain that the other experts on this call will set me right if I get anything wrong. Well, about 60% of oil and gas services in the Russian market are provided by third parties. which means that 40% of all these services are provided by affiliated companies, and most of them tend to be Russian companies. And interestingly,
Серьезные какие-то высокотехнологичные
these 40% tend to be low-margin services. However, the remaining 60% tend to be high value-added services, and the majority of them is provided by 4 international corporations. And in this respect, Russia is quite similar to Saudi Arabia or other countries. Well, take, for example, the Schlumberger Corporation, which alone accounts for like 50% of all oil field services provided around the world. I understand that there will be a separate presentation to be delivered by members of the Gas Institute, so I'm not going to even try to steal their thunder. So I'd rather say just a few words about our prospects within the OPEC, or rather, they should be talking about it. So again, I wouldn't steal their thunder. Now, as far as challenges are concerned, I believe that the key challenge we are facing now is that investment in E&P of traditional hydrocarbons is going down. And here I'm quoting from some OPEC research. So OPEC looked at the existing investment programs of the large oil and gas companies and the corrections introduced into them following the start of the COVID epidemic. We are talking about a $300 billion decline, which corresponds roughly to south of 20% of total. And recovery of this investment is not expected to happen earlier than 2023. It is only by this time that we are expected to go back to pre-crisis levels. Well, it doesn't take being an economic guru to realize that oil field services companies will be hit pretty badly. Again, my guess is that the big four are not going to be hit that badly because they've got a financial safety cushion, and in general, their positions are pretty well protected. However, it is the smaller guys that will have to bear the brunt of this hit. But 80% of Russian companies find it hard to believe that high-tech oil and gas equipment can be manufactured and is actually being manufactured in the Russian Federation. This is data coming from a survey last year. Surprising as it may be, it is, well, the prevalent perception in the domestic market, which means that we are facing here a very steep challenge, very steep climb. Importantly, unlike some of the companies polled, we are certain that Russian companies know how to develop, manufacture, and supply highly competitive equipment. And we realize how important it is for us to provide the right incentives for them. Unfortunately, this government often errs on the side of bans and prohibitions rather than using the carrot. There are lots of smart people in this country. Unfortunately, money seems to be an issue right now. I visited the oil pavilion at VDNHigh last week, which is a national exhibition center in the center of Moscow. And what became a total surprise to me was that a Russian engineer named Shukhman was in fact the forefather of most technologies we're using in the oil and gas industry. I think it only goes to show that very often we are told that Russians are good at inventing but not at innovating. I think that Schuchman's example proves this wrong. So let's stand together
пуговицам, про пиджак, пуговицам претензии есть, там, карманам есть. То есть
And
всё
this
это-
makes me think of the old comic sketch by Rykin, a Soviet comic, which was effectively about pinpoint solutions. Obviously, we need to develop a holistic proposal here. Thank you very much, Alexei. Indeed, the challenges that Alexei has mentioned need to be taken into account. And I have no doubt that we will be very successful if we stand together. Okay. Now we are going to hear from REC and in particular from EXIR, and a welcome address will be delivered by Nikita Gusakov, the CEO of XR.
Добрый день. Спасибо большое за
Good
возможность.
afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to such a distinguished audience. Although Alexei has started with a somewhat conservative overview of the prospects of Russian exports, we actually beg to disagree. We believe that oil and gas, heavy engineering actually have very good prospects. Now, for 2019, numbers are still kind of humble. We're talking about 30 billion rubles total worth of exports from this segment of the industry,
С падением цен на нефть, ограничения.
which constitutes a 7% increase year on year. And yes, we understand that there have been certain constraints imposed on the oil and gas industry in the recent months, but still we have a very positive outlook. We ran a business mission for companies from this particular industry to Uzbekistan several months ago, and it is very similar to what Alexei has already described. There, in Uzbekistan, they have lots of well-known foreign names, but also they've got local players. They have, for example, Enter Engineering, and some companies are either fully local or they are JVs with, Uzbeki companies, with Russian companies. And this business mission was quite successful. We're able to sign several important high-profile contracts. And my agency has been able to extend total loan support or loan guarantees of up to about $300 million towards projects involving Uzbekistan. We are certain that with the support of the institutions both in Russia and Uzbekistan, we have been able to promote business between the two countries. As regards the existing support, the numbers for last year, for example, stood about 125 million USD, extended to roughly 180 companies total. This year, we're looking at over $150 million. And again, I realize these numbers are sort of humble, internationally speaking, but we believe they're going to rise quite quickly. There are Russian companies who have got competitive products and services to offer internationally, and as domestic prices seem to be slumping, these companies are even more interested in international markets. So naturally, we want to help them enter international markets. And the biggest challenge that we have is that international clients often don't know about these companies or their services. We have we have actually conducted some forays into, for example, the African continent, and we realize how promising this continent is. Actually, for this spring, we planned a physical business mission to Africa, focusing primarily on the oil and gas producing countries of the region. My request for those who are not delivering any speeches right now, can you please mute your mics? Thank you. So because of the pandemic, we had to postpone the mission. Fortunately, we can run such missions now digitally. We do hope that this mission will enable us to increase the awareness of international customers of Russian companies and what they've got to offer. We do hope that next year will enable us to run missions like this, both digitally and hopefully physically as well, the pandemic providing for it. Well, I should mention here such countries as Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan as particularly interesting CIS countries. The African market is incredibly attractive, and Russian companies are barely known there. And the Middle Eastern market is highly competitive for sure. However, as oil and gas companies' revenues, earnings are going down, they may start looking for better value for money offers, and Russian companies have got a lot to offer, particularly given the weakened ruble. So the way we see it is that we need to give a helping hand towards raising awareness, and we actually believe that we should be able to double or triple exports of Russian oil and gas equipment and services in the next 3 years. And yes, I'm wishing all sorts of success to all the participants. Thank you very much, Nikita. So it's a tripling strategy. That should be a great step, and I think this is a very good communication snippet. Dear participants, let's move on. Next person to speak will be Sergei Selivanov, who is the head of the Department of Exhibition, Fair and Congress Activities of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Russian Federation. Thank you very much. Indeed, I am in charge of Congress activities. It's a pleasure to see you all. I'll try to limit my official address to my set of competences. I am very grateful to REC for this invitation, and I'm so happy to see Alexei, officially opening it. He's a person of great esteem, and I'm happy to have been his subordinate recently. So as regards congresses and fairs, you certainly appreciate that all these activities came to a grinding halt in March 2020 and are only starting to recover now, and even this recovery is hamstrung. Well, I'm actually connecting here from the opening of another business mission on agrochemistry, which shows that indeed, various Russian industries, despite the existing challenges, are trying to promote themselves internationally. I do agree we need to promote what we've got, products and services, while leveraging the new technological opportunities. And the Chamber of Trade and Commerce has been a long-standing partner of Russian Expert Center, and we have been very much instrumental in organizing trade missions, business missions, congresses, fairs, and so on. And in preparation for this particular event, we leveraged our network to invite both exporters and potential customers. Actually, my chamber includes 188 branches all over the country. We are represented in over 40 countries of the world, and we represent nearly 40,000 corporations. Let me also stress here that we are also preparing for the oil and gas industry exhibition that is going to be held in Expo Center in April 2021. We are already seeing quite a lot of interest from companies representing 15 different countries. In particular, Czech Republic, China, and Germany are going to establish, their own booth clusters there. Rather than steal the time from this session, I'm just winding it up here, wishing everybody health and success. Thank you very much, Sergei. I am certain that in year 2021, most participants of this business mission will be happy to participate in your event. This is the part where we wind up the official welcome speeches and we transition to reports by the professional industry participants. The next presentation will be delivered by Deputy Director of Machine Tool and Investment Engineering Department. That's Alexei Dubinin. He will be talking about the activities of the Ministry of Industry and Trade of Russia. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. We continue working in line with our plan for facilitation of import substitution in the industry, and 27 technological areas have been identified in this plan, and this plan is fully synchronized with the energy strategy of the Russian Federation, spanning from now until 2035. Over the recent years, we have achieved certain successes, as proven by the statistics. Oil and gas heavy engineering industry grew by roughly 2 to 3% per annum, while exports of the same industry grew by roughly 7%. According to Federal Customs Service, main product categories that were exported included heat exchangers 35%, valves, pipe fittings and valves 25%, compressors 16%, reactors and column equipment at roughly 8%. Most of our exports have been going to India, Kazakhstan, Bangladesh, and Belarus. Russian oil and gas industry, just like the industries of other countries, faced challenges in the first half of 2020 related both to the spread of COVID-19 as well as a reduction in oil prices and appreciation of the US dollar. We realize we are going to face further reduction in demand, so naturally we're looking for ways to bolster demand where it is possible. So besides supporting Russian producers in the domestic market, we're also conducting activities geared towards strengthening the position of Russian exporters abroad. In particular, we have requested information from all Russian oil and gas companies to provide information about their projects abroad and the opportunities for using Russian-made equipment in those projects. We're currently analyzing their responses, and then we will, in a kind of manual mode, we will analyze where it is possible and how it can be arranged. And we are engaging the Agency for Technological Development in these activities, and you will hear members of the agency later today. At the same time, we are interacting with the trade missions of Russian consulates, and they are providing us with information about Russian projects being conducted in their respective countries, as well as about, tender proceedings being conducted there and so on. In the first half of 2020, we have successfully communicated with our trade missions in Argentina, Belarus, Bulgaria, Vietnam, India, Indonesia, Iran, Italy, Indonesia, Kyrgyzstan, Cuba, Morocco, Mongolia, Pakistan, Serbia, Tajikistan, Thailand, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and South African Republic. However, for the manufacturers of oil and gas equipment, it is in particular Central Asian markets such as Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, Middle East, in particular UAE, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Iran, and Azerbaijan, and Africa, in particular Egypt and Nigeria, that are of the biggest interest, so to speak. As far as specific countries such as Azerbaijan and UAE are concerned, we have developed working groups in order to facilitate better interaction, and we're already running video conference meetings with them. There is also a Russia-Emirates subgroup on certification and standardization of oil and gas equipment, and this subgroup has already engaged ADNOC, the state-owned oil and gas company. This subgroup has been created because of the need to synchronize Russian and Emirates approaches to certification and standardization of oil and gas equipment. Over this period, 2 meetings were held in November 2019 and February 2020. So the Emirates have kind of not exactly approved, but rather homogenized more than a dozen of Russian standards for pumping equipment, measuring, metering, and assessment systems and electric drives with the standards currently being used by ADNOC. We have developed an additional list of Russian standards as well as a list of labs for certification of oil and gas equipment and sent it to the Emirates party. Currently, we're also interacting with Azerbaijan, and we are at the stage of creating a working group. Our Azerbaijani colleagues are currently considering a draft roadmap for interaction between Russian industrial companies with SOCAR, state-owned oil company of Azerbaijan. And the internal regulation of the subgroup on mutually beneficial collaboration around oil and gas equipment and technologies, as well as a set of presentations from Russian oil and gas companies, is currently being considered. We are interacting with other countries as well, conducting offline meetings together with online conferences. Thus, for example, we have conducted, actually it was back in October 2019 that we conducted our first workshop on the prospects for manufacturers of oil and gas equipment in Saudi Arabia. And it was attended by over 80 manufacturers of oil and gas equipment and providers of oil field services, including such well-known Russian corporations as NPF Packer, Novomet Perm, Borchim Mush, and PKNM, or Perm-based company for oil machine building. Also, in October, 2 weeks after the Saudi-Russian CEO Forum held in Riyadh, Aramco signed memoranda of understanding with the following Russian manufacturers of oil and gas equipment: Integra, Technovec, ChatAPZ, and Intratool. All these companies are still going through the pre-qualification procedures at Aramco because of the new difficulties imposed by COVID-19. We are also collaborating with our Belarusian partners. In July 2020, we held a video conference with the Belarusian refining company called Naftan, and the following decisions were made in the course of this video conference. We have agreed on developing perspective areas for collaboration around re-rigging some of the brownfield assets. We've also agreed on inclusion of Russian companies in the mailing list regarding all the tenders that the plant initiates. And Naftan has agreed to inform the local trade mission of the Russian Federation whenever they have issues with certain, say, Russian certificates, so that the Ministry of Industry and Trade is on top of such unfavorable proceedings if they ever happen. Also, in August 2020, A meeting, a video conference was held with our Uzbekistan colleagues and colleagues from Uzbek Neftegas, also attended by Russian corporations. In the course of this event, Russian corporations learned about the procurement procedures at Uzbek Neftegas, as well as the projects currently being run in the territory of Uzbekistan, and Russian companies in their turn were able to present their own products to potential customers. As practice has shown, such meetings are very important and can be hugely effective because quite often Russian companies don't know the nuances of interaction with their foreign partners and their potential customers. Also, we are in the communication loop about the tenders being conducted by other international companies. And obviously, I want to thank all those parties involved for sharing this information with us. To be more specific, we have been very closely collaborating.
Отдельно хочу также остановиться на работе Минпромторга в части популяризации деятельности института.
I would like to speak about the popularization of the solution of the initiatives, our INTI, and the platform for cooperation of the producers and manufacturers and licensors to develop uniform standards in the oil and gas industry to replace foreign standards. The institution carries on work for unification standards to the equipment manufacturers so that in the future it will comply to the ET standard and will get access to tenders of just a few foreign countries. Gazprom Neft, Sibur Tatneft have been initiators, and we are tackling joining the co-establishers of the Gazprom company, which is going to happen in the near future. We would like to establish an option of the observation. The observations are conducted by Transneft and Uzbek Neftegas. With the participation of the Ministry of Trade of the Russian Federation in 2020, we've established the interaction with ADNOC company and from the UAE and the Sagar company from Azerbaijan. This event is attended by the Gazprom member, Mr. Kuznetsov, who is going to speak in much more detail about this current mechanism I've just mentioned. So we are going to establish a few measures which are conducted by the suppliers to export, carried on by our colleagues who are going to speak about that. And we will speak about the mechanism which highlights the corporate programs to establish the competition standards, and Minpромторg is going to subsidize the interest rate on credit, which will allow to supply the products of the Russian manufacturers abroad at a much lower price. And in the end, I would like to call all of our colleagues to the joint work, joint cooperation and information exchange on the projects carried on and the tenders conducted, which will enhance the goods turnover and will show us additional benefits as technological development and expand the list of the potential suppliers. Alexei, thank you very much, and I hope with this Minpромtorg plans we will overcome all of those challenges and we will expand the network, we will expand the exports. Thank you very much for joining in, and we will move on. And as we move on with the more relevant topic on localization of the production of the equipment with the oil and gas refinery and oil and gas and chemicals, the director on procurement of materials and equipment, Arton Burdin, is going to give us his next presentation. Hello, colleagues, and here's the story about Russian suppliers joining in these projects. This company is the leading center for the project management, supplies and logistics, which is a very large supplier, and it is in the top 10 of the biggest suppliers of the oil and gas industry, according to Minenergo 2020, which helps carry on large-scale projects, and it works with the Amur refinery, and also works with the gas refineries, and is the EPC contractor. It carries on the LPG refinery, and it also works with Linden and the pyrolysis plant in the Siberia facility. The engineering industry in Russia is a source of development of different industries. As the global companies join in and participate in this process in the local market and in the global market, we set up engineering competencies which match the international level, and it allows to join in very big scale resourceful projects as the alternative to the international participants, and together with them. And the experience of managing the large-scale investment projects, the work with the global engineering companies, and the work with the Russian projects, industries and institutions, and the manufacturers of the products and materials, provides us the opportunity to join in this work quite actively, and we've had some experience in that, and we would like to show you the Severstal examples, which is Linde Severstal providing unique equipment for the gas refinery, and the localization level of the parts reached 60% in 2020, and the supplies of the 2 units of the equipment has been carried out. And to complete more difficult work, pipe machines have been imported from Germany. And there is a holding which provides the supplies of the 12 gas pumping machines. They have been tested in accordance with the foreign standards and Russian standards, supervised by Gazprom. Currently, we have already shipped 8 units. And one final example, we've carried on a lot of work of pipe production in Amur gas refinery, gas facility, with the joint work of all the parties and stakeholders involved. We had proved the feasibility of the use of Staspina cost and provide the good level of localization at 80% level, which we had not been able to achieve previously. Normally, the supplies were carried out from abroad, and very often foreign standards of design and financing are a limiting factor. Due to that, Neftegas is going to carry out work with the Russian suppliers to get accreditation to manufacture equipment according to foreign standards, and works with the contractors using its role in the consortium. This company participates in pushing the standards developed by the institution of the technological initiatives, which will be explained in the next presentation. Separately, in the Amur gas refinery, we provide services for standardization of the electrical equipment. We have reached agreements with the main leaders in the markets to use the production facilities to the max in the Russian Federation. And we are planning contracts and the service facilities to provide such services for the installation work. Due to the high requirements to the water quality, we are tackling the imported technologies, but as we work together with the foreign partner, we will also be linking the Russian partner for better localization. Together, we already know that there are a few contacts established who can carry out this project. With another project, we have the Baltic refinery, which sets localization as a max level for the project. We have good competence working in the Russian market, achieving great results in this trend. In this project, the decision was made to establish an engineering center, engineering facility in St. Petersburg to use engineering potentials of the city of St. Petersburg and Leningrad region to work together with other industries. Roshin Alliance and Nipigas in Leningrad region carried out a roundtable session involving the participants that are manufacturers of the materials in Leningrad region to give good opportunity for them to join in this project and carry on their work with that on later stages for their equipment and parts participation. As a summary, I would just like to say that these companies normally would like to use their contractors and interact with them to provide the good quality of work and product. With that, engineering invites the constructors and different manufacturers and other participants of the market. And as more engineering companies involve in this process in the Russian Federation, also using the foreign licensors, it prepares them to enter foreign markets with the price benefits and advantages, and also maintaining high quality of the goods made, which is a primary requirement. And I'm done. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for joining in. Thank you, Anton. Thank you. I think it was really interesting to listen to Anton. And today, almost everyone is talking about being very open and transparent and to communicate with the colleagues for maximum transparency. And in the very beginning, Alexei Gospodarev was speaking about the standards development, which will unify the standards in the industry and will increase the share of the Russian materials in the large-scale investment projects, which is the biggest work which is set by the Institute of the Oil and Gas Initiative. So the next topic are the results and the further steps of the ANO INT, and the head of the technological section and import replacement solutions of Gazprom Neft, Mikhail Kuznetsov, is going to give his presentation. I hope you can hear me well. Yes, I'm here and I will show you the presentation, and this presentation is already online. And my topic is actually the initiative which has been mentioned a few times, the autonomous organization, the Institute of Oil and Gas Initiatives. And some time ago, the managers wanted us to analyze the share of the Russian content which we really have in the projects implemented and which one we can actually achieve. I wouldn't want to stop at each and every project. I will be just speaking about oil refinery example as one of the brightest examples. Yes, actually the use of the Russian equipment and domestic materials in the Russian Federation oil and gas refinery and LPG accounts for only 30% at the moment, unfortunately, only 30%. And this company that I represent speaks about it, and also the Ministry of Energy of Russian Federation spoke about it a number of times. It's also proven by other oil and gas companies. In actual fact, this is the share of the Russian content that we can actually reach. It could have been approximately 80% instead of 30%. We've just taken the groups that we have in projects, and we measured everything, and we ended up with this number. Of course, this result was kind of surprising for us, and it was kind of surprising for our management, and we were asked to analyze what would be the primary reason for this unbalanced situation. We have analyzed the two reasons for that. One, tactical problem, which relates to a bigger part of oil and gas refining projects implemented with the use of the foreign partners, and the use of the foreign partners carries on throughout the project, starting from the processes that provide technology. For technology, we invite foreign licensors, so to speak. And then in the feed projects and in the construction stage, we'd also hire the foreign EPC providers, which very recently entered the Russian market, and they don't know the specifics yet. And together with the Ministry of Industry and Trade of the Russian Federation, we have initiated and established the working group together with them before the pandemic hit us, before the COVID-19 limitations kicked in. We gathered together at one round table of the foreigners and the Russians, and where we have provided very constructive dialogue on representing the Russian industry to the foreign partners. But this problem is of a tactical kind, because we have a more important problem over it, which is the problem of using the foreign standards, foreign and international industry certification systems. We failed to completely participate in the development of the foreign standards, and the Russian manufacturers are also quite limited in terms of the development of such standards and certifications. So we have decided to do the following. As we cannot participate in this process in the current organizations, primarily European, American ones, we decided to establish our own instead. And this slide describes our goals. Is first of all to facilitate technological dialogue, develop the standards, so where we would have Russian industries and foreigners working together. And a very important goal is just to provide the specific standards compliance. You just need to prove that it really complies with the foreign standard. Indeed, for the API institution, of which you are quite aware, approximately 700 of the API standards which have been adopted, you can get API monogram that the product you make matches exactly with this standard, with no more than 5% of such standards that we have here. And the Russian industry, especially the oil and gas industry and the OPEC plus countries, oil and gas industries, normally faces such issues that the local manufacturers, local producers, even if they produce something according to the international standard, they cannot get this compliance standard. They cannot prove that it really meets the international standards. So to do that, we decided to establish this international structure. And for this, we need to mention the participants, which you can see here on the left-hand side of the slide. And we are planning on attracting the three major groups of participants: the oil and gas companies, the manufacturers of the equipment, engineering companies of the Russian kind and the foreign kind. And before the COVID-19 restrictions, we realized that we are reaching the international level. And in principle, the geographical scope of Russia is very broad to have online sessions. So we decided just to move digital from the very beginning. And we have developed the platform, online platform, which is currently functioning. And all of the activities in the institute at the moment, which we carry out, developing the standards, proving the standards, is done online. It's done completely online. We have experts which get registrations in their personal page, their cabinet, and wherever they are in the world, they can reach this online platform, get to their cabinet room, check out the standards, download the files if necessary, leave their comments and leave their votes. And in the future, all of the services that we are planning to develop in this initiative will also be moved to the digital format completely. And we have this plan for 2020 and for 2021. Currently, we have proved this centrifugal pumps standards for oil and gas industry, and in different stages of readiness, but quite close to the complete result. We have standards for pressure vessels, standards for pipes, process pipe and furnaces, valves, and the standard management quality system. We are currently developing and are going to participate in the voting session on steel sorts and materials, where every foreign brand of steel will be compared with the Russian analog, Russian alternative. In the following slide, we can see in the current slide that we have a group of companies with 4 initiators: Gazprom, Gazprom Neft, Tatneft, Sibur. They have the status of the observers with the following companies such as Transneft, Uzbek Neftegaz, and we are currently signing an agreement with the ADNOC company from UAE. We are open for communication with all different oil and gas companies, and with the proposition we are currently making this presentation. The experts have provided 10 foreign expert companies. 6 of them are given on this slide. I'm giving their names: Technip, Saipem, McPermont, and others. We have Aero Liquid, Certec Niji, Technicrisianidas, and others. Maybe I've forgotten some of them, but in actual fact, we have 10 large-scale licensors have provided their experts, and they're currently considering and voting for these standards. Of course, we are not planning on stopping here. We can also see the licensor and the EPC contractors that we are currently negotiating for their future joining in this session. And we have many Russian participants, maybe our foreign partners who are currently listening to this session do not know all of them, but trust me, these manufacturers are big scale ones, are established with the annual turnover reaching more than $1 billion US dollars. So these are not small companies, these are big scale companies, and they are just lacking this interaction with us to really supply the equipment to us and to other countries in big volumes. And on the next slide, as we continue with our proposals, I've actually seen the lists from Kazakhstan, Algeria, and Nigeria, maybe some other countries as well. So some time ago, we joined in the communication with the energy dialogue of OPEC and the Russian Federation with the Secretary General of OPEC. So they supported our initiatives, and they promised to cascade it down to OPEC and national companies of corresponding countries. And the representatives of the companies who listen to us today, we call to you to join our initiatives. We want you to join this initiative of ours so that you sign a memorandum with our institution, and these companies will be provided a free of charge ride to participate in these organizations' activities for 1 year, to check the documents, to vote for these documents. So within a year, these companies really understand how interesting it can really be to continue the cooperation with us. And if such companies get interested, in a year, a decision can be made on fully fledged joining the establishment group and establish this solution. These companies, we have shown you some of the slides, like Saudi Aramco, SOCAR, Kazmunay Gaz, and then some national companies of Oman and Kuwait, and some companies from Nigeria and Algeria and other countries. And we would be very happy, very delighted to see these companies among our partners. And in the end of my presentation, I would like to show you the main page of the website, of the INTI website. And INTI is the Russian acronym for the foreign language is IOGT. It sounds like IOGT. So we've got web domains registered in both Cyrillic and Latin alphabet. And we have a QR code for simplicity. By using this QR code, you can drill down this site and see much more detail of which I've just spoken about. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be happy to take your question later on. Thank you, Mikhail, and I really hope that you'll be interested to drill down, like Mikhail said, drill it down to this website, but we will move on. Alexei Dubinin and Nikita Gusakov mentioned that they will provide very serious support for the industry, and I suggest that we carry on with this, and we will consider this state support of export and current possibility growth. The director of export support for oil and gas and heavy engineering, Mr. Anton Shitinin, is going to join us with this topic now. Hello, colleagues. I would like to welcome you all here. Very representative board, and I hope that this event that we'll have in the future for this month, from November 10th until December 10th, a number of sessions which we will have with our foreign customers who will have to reach an agreement about the future activities. The main thing is that this part is satisfactory to all of us. As for this presentation part, on the first slide that I would like to draw your attention to, I would like to briefly speak about the group of companies of the Russian Export Center. This export center is the state export support center, which has the main company, and some activities of the state supports are carried out. The XR company with the National Export Credit Agency, XR, which provides the insurance tools and insure the export credits and investments, and the Rosexim Bank, a specialized financial institution which has been established to support national exports. And I would like to speak about these tools much more in detail. As far as the scale is concerned, so the volume of the export supported accounted for more $19.5 billion. A lot of services have been provided and more than 800 credits have been extended. The financing volume would account for 73 billion rubles, 58 billion rubles of credits and loans, and 14.9 billion rubles of guarantees and letters of credit. And we have a very big geographical expansion. More than 150 countries have been covered. And as far as the industry specifics is concerned, mostly this support is provided to the machine industry, machine building, with 56% of the insurance coverage for machine industry products. The leaders are of the CIS countries like Belarus, Uzbekistan. As far as the time frames are concerned, it's quite diverse. We have short-term and long-term support tools. And on the next slide, on this next slide, we will speak briefly about the non-financial support measures. We provide a broad spectrum of analytics, surveys of the foreign trade, preparing documents for exports, supports the logistics, company selection, customs brokers, doing promotion in the foreign markets, looking for customers. And you can check out our site for more details regarding that. The administration of the export activities. And on the next slide, we will see briefly the certification, patents, and licensing services. As for the support for the certification, we provide, together with our partners, a number of consulting services. And speaking in terms of the modernization of the support laboratories, we just need to minimize the time and money expenses on carrying out these tests. So we have a program on modernizing the labs, and the number of these labs should be increasing year by year. On the next slide, we will speak about the support. It's important that we've got all this information on the site, the subsidies of the transportation, which allows us to compensate this 80% of the actual costs. At this particular slide, we have the program for patents support. We have up to 100% of the intellectual property costs can be compensated. For more detail, of course, for more details, you can check our site and use our support. And right here, the certification of the industrial products can also be subsidized. This year, we have reinstated the subsidy program, which compensates the certification and homologation costs in the foreign markets, which compensates up to 80 and 50% of costs correspondingly. And the requirements for the partners can also be seen at our website, and we can also use this subsidy so that the costs for that are quite sizable, and this support is necessary. As we move on to the financial support, this is provided by Roseximbank and XR. It has a large spectrum of tools for exporters and for the banks. For the banks.
And our insurance coverage is good for political and commercial risks equally. Actually, the exact coverage is up to 90% and 95% respectively. The financial solutions proposed by XR and Roseximbank include exporter lending through, well, effectively loans extended to the working capital, but also we provide export loans, and export factoring, starting from this year, is covered by Russian Instruction 566, which means that this tool has been updated and upgraded. It actually is more attractive now for Russian exporters and should enable them to make more competitive proposals to their clients. Also, we provide loans for infrastructure building abroad, and I will cover them in more detail. And also guarantee support, and this covers all sorts of guarantees that actually can, fall within the purview of the mandate of Roseximbank. Let me cover some individual instruments in more detail. For example, loans to the buyers of Russian equipment. Just bear with me for a sec.
Покупатель, да, более подробно немножко о схеме, да, взаимодействия, то есть какие плюсы дают экспортеру, он защищен от риска неплатежа.
So effectively, the benefit for the exporter is that we sort of assume the risk of non-payment, but we also provide funding to the buyer, and we provide this funding at very favorable terms because the interest rate itself is subsidized by the Russian government, making it much more attractive than what can be found in the local market. So I believe it's a very promising tool, and I invite you to look at this tool in particular whenever you're running international negotiations.
Более подробно о кредит на создание российской экспертной инфраструктуры.
More details here on the loans for creation of expert infrastructure outside the Russian Federation. What happens quite often is that Russian companies need to create certain organizational infrastructure, and the tool set provided by Roseximbank and XR can support you in this direction, so to speak, as well. So, for example, you can use our facilities in order to, fund creation of such infrastructure. And again, you can do it at subsidized rates. Banks can obtain insurance products from XR in order to cover their non-payment risks. The previous speakers have already talked about the evolution and the structure of Russian exports, so I will skim this slide. Suffice it to say that Russian exports in 2020 are not really colossal, although they have been growing quite well in the previous years. And here I'm looking exclusively at oil and gas exports. Had we added, for example, nuclear power sector here, numbers would have been much more impressive, but that would be a different market segment. Historically, a very high contribution has been coming from submersible pumps. And Russian ESPs have been successfully sold pretty much all over the world, but we would love other product categories to repeat this sort of success. Our exports are primarily concentrated on the CIS countries. This is even more so for ESPs. That's electric submersible pumps, naturally. But we believe there are very good prospects for expanding our exports for other product categories, such as compressors, for example, or valves. Areas of focus for us include the Middle East, Africa, Latin America, and naturally the CIS countries as well, but we are quite well represented there already. Until 2025, most refining capacity will be used in those areas, in those regions. So it makes perfect sense for Russian companies to penetrate these markets if they haven't done that before. Next slide, please. Here I'm listing current industrial trends and potential lossy of growth for state support. Naturally, issues like this are very much and very regularly discussed by Russian authorities.
Первый тренд касательно крупных экспортных проектов.
Now, the first trend here, as far as major export projects are concerned, is that they are, in most cases, delivered by major EPC contractors, which means that these are turnkey projects. And fortunately, Russian regulations 191 and 565, starting from this year, are covering EPC contractors as well, which means it is much easier for those companies that are engaged as subcontractors by EPC contractors to leverage the capabilities of XCR. Also, Regulation 566 enables Roseximbank to actually help companies with refinancing their loans. We understand that some Russian companies have been struggling to obtain API certificates, and it is sometimes a pretty costly procedure. So we can subsidize them in terms of these expenses in particular. Creation of Russian EPC contractors, which has been very much mulled recently, is naturally very important. And it's also very important for Russian corporations to be certified and pre-qualified by the leading customers abroad. That will provide great impetus to the development of Russian oil and gas heavy engineering industry. You know, my colleagues and myself are regularly involved in negotiations with licensors, and we realize that so many oil and gas projects in Russia today still rely on a bunch of international suppliers. Take, for example, the fourth line of Yamal SPG or Yamal LNG. Fortunately, this one is being delivered primarily using Russian domestic technologies. There is also the so-called Arctic Cascade run by Novatech, which is also nearly 100% dependent on the local products. This is where we want this industry to go. So the more cases we have like this, the stronger will be the argument for inclusion of Russian companies in the vendor list of international customers. Now, as regards large-scale oil and gas equipment and subsidies for it, well, we certainly expect the share of compensable expenses to grow, because quite often transportation expenses as such for large-scale equipment tend to be very high. We certainly want a higher portion, higher than the current 15%, to be compensatable, so to speak, by the state via Roseximbank or REC or what have you. Now, since most new wells being drilled are either directional or very deep-seated ones, and this is happening even in the Middle East, it is creating a new window of opportunities for the Russian manufacturers. They have been serving this kind of oil and gas operations for, well, not centuries, obviously, but decades for sure. Naturally, it's feasible for us to consider how we can actually subsidize Russian companies' efforts to create depots around the world, because equipment like this benefits from short lead times. Foreign projects of Russian oil and gas companies naturally can be used as drivers for the development of Russian heavy engineering experts, and we are expecting sizable results in this respect in the near term. And possibly the last important trend for the OFS market, particularly as far as drilling services are concerned, deals with the transportation of drilling rigs. And transportation of drilling rigs tends to be very costly, and naturally, nobody signs long-term contracts for services like this. Therefore, subsidies for such transportation expenses could be a very important stimulus for Russian companies to bravely venture abroad. So this should be it for my overview of the industrial trends and opportunities. I do hope that the event being held today will be successful, and I wish success and health to everybody. Thank you very much, Anton, for this firepower that you are bringing here and the support you are extending to the industry. This makes me comfortable and certain that we will be able to tackle any challenges coming our way. Experts are telling us that there are lots of very promising countries around Russia, including Kazakhstan. So I'm inviting us all to listen to an overview of the current lay of the land in Kazakhstan. I'm inviting Svetlana Zhurkina, who is Deputy Representative of the Russian Federation in Kazakhstan, trade-wise. Hello, dear colleagues. So Kazakhstan, naturally, is part of the Central Asia region. And let me break down my speech into two parts. First, we'll deal with the oil and gas industry in Kazakhstan, and it is naturally the pillar, the most important industry for the country. Secondly, I would like to look at the measures of support we can extend to Russian companies that want to provide the oil and gas industry of Kazakhstan with their products and services. Now that we are discussing the oil and gas industry in Kazakhstan, it's important to remember that in Kazakhstan, it is controlled by the state, as it plays such an important role. It naturally has, a strategic role to play, so strategic oversight by the government is deemed proper. And in fact, total production stands at 90 million tons per year, and Kazakhstan ranks 17th in terms of annual production, but in terms of reserves, it ranks 12th. Now, as regards natural gas production, it is 3.5 billion cubic meters. In October 2020, oil production reached 1.4 million barrels. That's condensate not included. Most of this production comes from Tengiz, Karachaganak, and Kashagan, three super or major oil fields. In fact, the three fields are being operated by consortia, including international vertically integrated oil companies. Now, Kashagan is actually one of the top 10 largest fields in the world, and production volumes in Kashagan are about 400,000 barrels per day. Now, this industry is regulated by the code of, or rather, on mineral resource usage, and there are kind of subsidies for exploration provided there. And there is a company called Kazakh Invest, which plays an important role in attracting foreign investors in the petrochemical and refining industries. So, for all I know, some Russian companies could be interested in becoming investors. This actually can be a great segue to the Kazakh market. Well, actually, the terms offered by Kazakh Invest are quite favorable. And by the way, oil and gas production are pretty much regulated by Kaztransgaz and Kazmunaygaz, which means that these two entities will be your key partners. There is also a comprehensive program adopted for the development of the energy industry as a whole, and fuels as well. So it's not just oil, gas, petrochemicals. It also covered for the development of the nuclear power industry, as well as renewables. So it's actually a very interesting document to read. Now, if we discuss a refining of oil and gas, reconstruction of key refineries took place around 2018, and these are located in Chimkent, Atirau, and Pavlodar region. Oil transportation is executed through two pipelines. One is CPC, Caspian Piping Consortium, taking oil to Europe, and Kazakhstan-China pipeline naturally takes oil through the seaport of Aktau via the Black Sea to China. Together with the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Industry and Trade of Kazakhstan, are going to develop a list of products for the oil and gas and petrochemical industry that can be supplied by Russian companies, and this will be the subject of the discussion of the Intergovernmental Commission. Actually, the first meeting is being held today, but there will be more coming next week. So the only good news we can break right now is that a list like this is being prepared. Actually, we've prepared and we've submitted already to the Kazakh Ministry of Energy, together with a sort of a catalog of all the products of Russian oil and gas companies. And they promised to get back to us with information on their potential interests. So if any of the participants today want to get involved, please get in touch with the trade mission. As far as interaction with the trade mission is concerned, we've got an expert support group as part of the trade mission, and we also have a representative of the Russian Experts Center. So actually, the expert support group includes members of the trade mission as well as REC, and you can send your requests via any institution. They will all land, in our hands. And in particular, we are working, or rather, we are looking for current tenders. Actually, Kazakh Ministry of Energy has a separate chapter in their website where they announce major tenders. Actually, last week, the website of the trade mission of the Russian Federation to Kazakhstan kicked into action, and there you will find very compact information about doing business in Kazakhstan, which could be useful. So it covers, for example, applicable taxes and types of organizations that can be established by foreign parties in Kazakhstan, and so on and so forth. And also there, you will find a short chapter on tender rules and proceedings. Actually, it has several useful links. Also, you can use the same site to find the infrastructure that investors can use. Also, we have a list of law firms that can be approached for aid and so on. If you're interested in entering this market, please note it's a good idea to first get some insurance coverage from REC. And the clearer your task is phrased, the easier it will be for you to get the answer you want from your Kazakhstani partner. Please note that the majority of companies, particularly quasi-governmental companies, will be publishing their tenders on eGov websites, such as the procurement section of the Ministry of Energy website I mentioned before. So you can either consult us or you consult the website in order to stay aware of all the tenders being initiated by SOEs, quasi-state-owned companies, and so on. We have already developed several lists. Please note, these are cold lists. I know that REC has prepared B2B meetings for you. What we have is not so hot. It's just a list of cold addresses. But it could be good for your homework going forward. That way, you should be able to focus on what matters to you and maybe be successful. If you have a reliable partner in Kazakhstan, naturally doing business in the country will be so much easier. So do appreciate the value of cooperation. We also have a pretty thick brochure on doing business in Kazakhstan. It's about 116 pages long, to be precise, and it covers everything you need to know about business operations in Kazakhstan. All these documents I'm going to share now over Zoom, I guess. I hope it will be useful. This puts the lid on my presentation. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I am prepared to take them. Thank you very much, Svetlana, for such a detailed overview and also for the documents that you have promised to share with the participants. In the meanwhile, I suggest we move on. In the second part of our plenary session, we will, welcome practical reports on the experience of Russian companies abroad, and we shall start with a presentation on Uzbekistan. And Chief Specialist of the Procurement Department of Lukoil Uzbekistan Operating Company, Sanjar Zuparov, will start. Hello, dear colleagues. It's a Lukoil Uzbekistan Operating Company. Name is Sanjar. I am working for the Marketing and Contractor Qualification Department. I am happy to be able to address such a distinguished audience and share with you the experience of my company in Uzbekistan. Let me start with an overview of the history of our projects here. The history of Lukoil Uzbekistan Operating Company started in 2004 when a PSA for the largest project here was signed, and the unpronounceable name of the project follows. Actually, our cooperation expanded after that in 2007, and in 2011, Lukoil Uzbekistan Operating Company produced its 10 billionth cubic meter of gas. Several years later, we actually broke another record at 30 billion cubic meters. Uzbekistan is one of the key regions for Lukoil, public operating company, and we have been expanding our operations in Uzbekistan. As of today, Uzbekistan is one of the largest foreign investors in the country of Uzbekistan. Lukoil in Uzbekistan is operating under the aegis of a production sharing agreement, and the operator is Lukoil Uzbekistan Operating Company, headquartered in the city of Tashkent. Our strategic partner for all the projects is Uzbek Neftegaz, which is a national holding company. Let me tell you now more about the Kandim project. In Kandim, we have built one of the largest gas-producing assets in Central Asia, and it kicked into operation in April 2018. So by now we have here a huge gas processing facility with a throughput capacity of 8.1 billion cubic meters per year. It is actually the largest project of Lukoil in the Republic of Uzbekistan. Not just for Lukoil, I guess. So for the first time ever, 3 new licensed processes for deoxygenation were introduced, and we leveraged a BUS process, a solid soil process from the United Kingdom, and we also implemented a Jacobs desulfurization process. So this is obviously Jacobs from Holland. Total headcount is around 4,000 people. The gas processing facility is one of the bigger employers in a given region. Equipment from 30 different countries has been installed, and this obviously includes Italy, Germany, Russia, China, Uzbekistan, among others. And this is actually a unique, comprehensive facility centered around the gas processing unit. It actually has 2 process lines. Each has a capacity of slightly over 4 billion cubic meters gas. It produces sulfur, stable gas condensate, and stock gas. It is one of the largest projects for us. But there is also Haruzak, which was actually our first project in the country. In Haruzak, we actually produce gas. It is part of the Deniskul gas field, and there is also Yesar in the Kashkadarsk region. Most of our projects have been completed by now. Like I said, the gas processing facility has been in operation since 2018, which means we are in operate stage now. But we keep buying, for example, consumables and spare parts for so much equipment that we are running in the plant. So let me briefly cover our procurement procedures. We do tenders, and we announce these tenders in the Lukoil website, which makes it easy for you to monitor them. They're open, there are no limitations, any company will be considered. Well, I mean, as long as you meet the basic requirements for the tender, you're more than welcome. So according to Uzbek legislation, legal entities, well, as far I guess as they are certified, are allowed to participate in such tenders. Yeah, indeed, these requirements are spelled out in tender documents. When you download the tender documents, you will find the list of minimum requirements you need to meet. So if you are like this, you can easily apply for the tender participation in our website. The full list of tender documents can be easily downloaded, but remember that you need to send your application using your corporate stationery. It has to be signed by the CEO or another top manager, and it needs to be submitted in time. Also, some purchases we are making electronically. We've implemented an electronic purchasing platform, so you can submit your electronic applications there. This is how we are buying products, while services are treated differently. Services are done apparently in a blind tender. So you have to register in a different platform, you have to provide information about your company, and then you submit a bundle of documents. I guess electronically as well, though it wasn't stated clearly. So if you go through the registration process, you will be notified of all the new openings, quote-unquote, of all the new tenders that you may be interested in. This is it for my brief speech. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry. I'm certainly wishing you new great projects in Uzbekistan. So the next speaker is Konstantin Rudinsky, who is representing Union of Oil and Gas Equipment Manufacturers, and he's going to talk about the creation of a multifunctional public access center in the United Arab Emirates. Konstantin Rudinsky, the floor is yours.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen and dear participants, and I would like to ask you whether you can hear me well. Yes, Konstantin, we can hear you clearly and we can hear you well. I would like to welcome you here, and I would like to join the management of this conference. We have a very representative board here, and guess everyone who is interested in export issues and in promotion of our technologies abroad is here with us in this online conference. So in a couple of words, I would like to explain what we are, and then we'll consider our initiatives. The non-commercial organization, the Union of the Manufacturers of the Oil and Gas Equipment, was established in 1998 as an initiative to join a large-scale manufacturers who are involved in the production of the oil and gas equipment to defend economic and other interests for the foreign companies, and has been one of the largest organizations. It joins more than 50 companies, the producers of the oil and gas equipment, working with more than 60,000 people, and the annual turnover reaching more than 120 billion rubles. The supervisory board is made up of all of the representatives of the state powers, organizations, and it's chaired by the Ministry of Industry and Trade, Mr. Martov. The main functions of this union are defending the interests of the Russian companies, Russian manufacturers of the equipment, providing facilitation for competition, promoting and providing these services in the foreign markets, providing high quality information support and analytics to optimize the costs of the industry and between industry cooperation. This information can be checked on the website, and the link to the website will be given a little bit later. And right now, we are going to speak about our initiative, our idea, which we have started just recently. And this is the idea that we are voicing in the information field to understand how demanded it is and how useful it can be to our exporters. So, for example, if we get sufficient amount of your interests to this initiative, to these ideas, I guess we'll be able to promote it and move it on. If we gain your support, dear exporters, dear manufacturers, then we'll be able to push it even more effectively. It seems like the essence here, and as we show it on the slide number 2, shows quite a lot of problems related to the absence of the international experience, international references, problems with the certifications, problems with accreditation, and normally the intermediaries sometimes are very dodgy, and you cannot rely on them in terms of the maintenance of the equipment. And the requirements are not matched with a large number of markets. As far as the competition edge of our equipment, well, it leaves much to be desired, because the costs are quite high in our country, and as far as the awareness is concerned, is not also very high, because we need to realize where are you going, how are you going, and what would be the appropriate ways of entering this or that market are. Serious efforts have been taken to consider this issue and address it, but it still remains a pressing one. A lot of foreign companies would like this company to be present in the foreign markets and not only be able to discuss things with them online. And cooperation. Cooperation is a very serious matter in terms of international cooperation to acquire experience and international references. I guess it's one of the simplest ways for our companies on how you can get these cherished references. You can only get them through cooperation, and cooperation with the companies that are already have contracts, already have some references. You can cooperate with them and therefore be much more active and efficient entering the foreign markets. What would be the ideas? As we can see on the next slide, we suggest that we establish a multifunctional access center to support our exporters in the Middle East and North Africa markets. This slide depicts the problems which are common for all of the Middle East, and not only countries, I mean, the local support, the local service centers, the presence in the country, accreditation, certifications, international references, competition, and financial stability of the company. It's suggested that a multifunctional center is created that would be able to address all of these tasks as a system, of which previous speakers did say. We are addressing these issues, but without any comprehensive approach. Without that, we won't be able to move forward. So we need it. And this next slide depicts the major models, the major ways that our exporters enter the foreign markets. What we are monitoring here is when we enter the foreign market, the company normally faces the choice options. Either they have to enter this market by using the help of the intermediaries, a private company, a company, or opening an office, a representative office, a fully fledged one. Or we come up with yet another option. If we join together If we are capable of showing that this way is quite reliable, we can use it. The slide shows that establishing our representative office entails quite a lot of costs and financial risks, and it's time-consuming, having no administrative support, and it does not guarantee a solid result. So you spend quite a lot of money on that, but it's very dubious whether it's going to pay back. So the second option is to use local intermediaries, and I guess quite a lot of people have already used this option as well. Yes, it entails problems. The major problem being those intermediaries who are capable of doing at least something are already busy promoting some other companies in their market and do not necessarily sufficiently help promote the products of our companies. As major drawbacks of this method of entering the market, I would mention the contracts. Sometimes the contracts are dodgy and they are signed with intermediaries, and it's a long-term thing and very low efficiency, high permanent costs, ongoing costs. They are trying to squeeze out money from our exporters with this certification, accreditation, etc., etc. So, and the result is not guaranteed. So you just waste a lot of years on these contracts, but they are not specific and they do not stipulate the precise result and timeline. There's no guarantee. And no control, the absence of control, because the company is in Russia and the intermediary locates somewhere in the United Arab Emirates, and you cannot just check precisely whether they can control this completely, and having the representative office is costly and less efficient, like I said previously. So what would be the advantages with this initiative that we are coming up with? If the company becomes a resident of the multifunctional access center, it gets an option of balancing and properly distributing their costs. And if you need access to 3/4 meters of the storage facility or depot, you do not pay for 100 square meters like you would normally do in the economic zone in the UAE. Also, we have lower risks here because you're only having minor financial flows, so you don't have too many risks regarding finance. The process control, all these processes are located just in one single spot in the center. You don't have the lease-related risks and rental risks and other costs. And you have access to the operational chains. If this center we create is in the special economic zone, all the potential partner companies can be located around. All the international companies, 90% of them are located in such zones in UAE, in the Emirates. Some of them would be buying bolts and nuts. Some of them would be buying pipes. Some of them would be buying pumps, etc. So we'd offer them that we sign contracts on our terms, would be able to get international references, increase our volumes of export by using this cooperation, international cooperation. If we are able to agree, we'll get a simplified access to the state supports, and we will get all of these services in one single contact window, which is quite convenient. This next slide is quite busy. I wouldn't want to go into detail. This slide depicts much more in detail the services provided with the trends that this access center is going to tackle. I'll just mention some of them. The information services, the consulting services, repair and maintenance, after sales, promotion sale, all centered together, all gathered together, which will help get this optimization of these costs. The logistics center, if you really need some 20, 30 square meters on the first stage of entering the international markets, you can do that and pay for 20 or 30 square meters, but not for the large warehousing facility of 200 square meters. So if you enter a certain level, you'll be able to break away from this center and open your own representative office if you think it's expedient, if you think it's necessary. Also, this center can provide engineering services, providing engineering support, the collective access to competences, local competences that can be needed to optimize and adapt and localize your equipment and technologies to the needs of the local market. And the certification and test and trial center, because testing and proving the equipment is a costly procedure, and sometimes this equipment for testing and proving can be used by a few companies together and shared without any problems. So if we realize what you need exactly for these tests, we can buy this equipment and install it there. It will pay back very soon, and it will be much more effectively used for the tasks and purposes required. And here on this next slide, we tried to explain why the UAE has been chosen for that. The UAE, United Arab Emirates, is the big international hub with the big investment potential, very flexible. The Emirates give a lot of preferences to the foreign companies because we all realize that us and the Arab Emirates and the large number of countries that depend on the oil and gas exports would like to make the economy much more diverse. And we pursue the same goal here and there in the UAE. So we've got a lot of favorable conditions there in special economic zones, and the state support programs are there that we should and can utilize, of which not so many people know, and would be able to squeeze out this information from our partners at different international conferences, and we do it successfully. And this multifunctional access center can help us make this system more systematic, make it more accessible, and really do help our exporters to utilize it properly. At this particular slide, we can see a model of how we actually see it, how it's supposed to function, and what it can actually bring in for development of our export and for the industry as such. Here we're speaking about the participants and the vision. This is the union which should combine and attract the participants. The Russian Export Center, of course, because all of the mechanisms, all of the support mechanisms, and all of the financial benefits that can be provided to the exporters. And Minpромторg is the Russian party, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the UAE really helps us as far as the information is concerned, and it can help us convey it to the members of the union. And the Russian exporters who can actually be residents and investors of this particular solution, and simple investors who can also do that. And I would like to stipulate, when we were representing this concept for our state officials, the first question was, we're not going to give you any money, they said, but we are not asking for any money. We are here to develop, we're here to build this center and to really create this initiative. We're not asking for the government money, we are not asking for the state money, we're asking for the preferences that can be given to this facility, to be given to this multifunctional access center, to get better access to the support measures for the residents, so that we can simplify the subsidy scheme for the enterprises that will operate there. That's the actual reason. And on this next slide, we are briefly showing here the model, as we can see it here, and how beneficial it can be, and how it can be interesting for our exporter and the consumers of such services, those who motivate the participants. I would like to point out that the name of incubator and accelerator, we put it in the parentheses, in the inverted commas, because this center is really an incubator. It provides a kind of assistance, to raise the exporters, like an incubator, and for the accelerated growth of their export initiatives. And it's provided to optimize the costs for the Russian exporters. At what expense? At the joint use of the set of services, having simpler access to the subsidies and other tools of supports, using the facilities and benefits and perks, not only from Russia, but also from the United Arab Emirates and other countries that can be interested in promoting this particular initiative. We also speak about other countries of the Middle East, those countries that can have the similar interest to this center and help arrange similar centers in their respective countries. And in the end, I would like to show you a list of potential participants, the way we see it, and the input of this center. So for the residents, and as I sum up, we are talking about the installment fees to optimize the costs, and they will provide different benefits as an exchange. The Russian Expert Center will have to provide us a simpler way of contacting the state support, which will help them reach their KPIs much faster in the oil and gas equipment sector. And the investors, well, of course, they give their money, and they would like to reach their break-even point and pay back, and it can also be guaranteed by the return on sales. And United Arab Emirates will provide the benefits, different benefits for the exporters, which will help localize the technologies and use different innovative solutions that are in high demand, as we may be aware. Basically, I'm done with this presentation of mine. If you're interested about this concept that I've been trying to explain to you, if you have some suggestions and wishes, we would take them, of course. And on this final slide, I would like to show the web address, the link to this particular site. This presentation will be uploaded there later today. You can also contact us by that link with your feedback. Thank you. Goodbye. Konstantin, thank you very much. And I would also like to wish you success, to you and to your center, to be very effective and to use all the benefits it provides. And dear participants, please also join that website of the center. And we are moving on. And right now, I would like to point out that this plenary session has become quite interested by, has been interesting for our foreign guests from Algeria, and I would like to welcome our guests from abroad. Colleagues, good morning.
Good morning. We are happy. Do you hear us? Sorry. It's Mr. Fedal from Sonatrach. First, I would apologize for not participating of Mr. Arabi, and I would like to thank you to allow us to participate in this meeting and to hear from you. And after that, I would just present a short video from Mr. Arabi to present what we are expecting from Russian industry. Do you show the video?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share with you a brief overview of Sonatrach corporate profile and the investment opportunities and reinforce partnership and create value. As you may know, Sonatrach is the first company in Africa by revenue and one of the important NOCs. Sonatrach as an NOCs is involved in its core activities in Algerian energy sector, from upstream exploration and production to downstream activities like gas processing, refining, and petrochemicals. It's also in charge of national and international transport of hydrocarbon. Sonatrach also operates through several subsidiaries and shareholdings in various fields of energy and mining. Important subsidiary companies, including distribution firm Naftal, which operate a gas station throughout the country, and other subsidiaries in highly specialized areas such as drilling and seismic research. Our ambition today is to become one of the highest performing and most profitable NOCs in the industry. Our vision is to remain a role model for the Algerian economy by positioning ourselves on value-creating topics, by contributing to the economic development of Algeria and by instilling a real task for excellence and performance in the country. To give you an idea of what is Sonatrach as of today, let me give you some key figures of what we have accomplished last year. We achieved $33 billion of sales exports. We have produced more than 187 million tons of oil equivalent, including natural gas primary production, which has been set up at a level of 127 billion cubic meters. This is thanks to a common effort of 53,000 direct employees and 120,000 indirect employees if we include subsidiaries. In upstream activities, Sonatrach continue its exploration efforts in major and in major basin, with the objective of doubling the annual volume of discoveries in order to renew reserves, to mobilize reserves, and to improve the recovery rate of our oil field to increase production. Sonatrach is also developing its offshore in partnership and assessing its huge potential of unconventional resources. Algerian offshore is considered a complex frontier basin. Thanks to partnership with IOCs, several prospects of different nature and geological concepts has been identified. For the unconventional, Algeria has the third largest reserves of unconventional gas resources in the world, behind China and Argentina, with more than 20,000 billion cubic meters of technically recoverable reserves. Several conditions allow us today to move forward in this field. The identified areas of interest are located near production facilities. Sonatrach has also a strong partnership and JVs that can accelerate the development of unconventional gas resources. And Sonatrach, with its experience in the conventional resources, has a strong expertise, especially in drilling and fracturing techniques. And finally, many infrastructure still exists today in Algeria and can be leveraged to develop in the future any new resources. Indeed, in the addition of the major oil and gas hub in Algeria, which are Hassi Masroud and Hassermel, Sonatrach has developed a national pipeline network which has densified over the years. Today, it covers almost 22,000 kilometers. To maintain its position as the main gas exporter to the European market, Algeria has 3 international gas export pipelines with a total capacity of 54 billion cubic meters. The 2 existing line destinations are Spain and Italy. Besides supplying Europe with gas via the 3 pipelines, Sonatrach owns 4 LNG plants with an annual capacity of 56 million cubic meters of LNG, giving it a better operational flexibility to market natural gas and target new markets. Sonatrach is also implementing a program to strengthening the existing petrochemical industry, based through the development of major new structuring projects. The existing petrochemical base, made up of 3 ammonia and urea complex, 2 helium plants, a methanol complex and the production complex of high-density polyethylene, will be reinforced by a plan to implement 2 propane dehydrogenation plant and polypropylene production unit in Algeria and abroad. A large portfolio of petrochemical projects is under maturation, and partner research to new projects such as methanol and derivative projects are underway. In line with national policy, Sonatrach has taken option on solar energy. Sonatrach has adopted in current phase of its development the principle of investing in solar power generation capacity, supply its industrial installation, with a triple objective of developing know-how, mastering photovoltaic technology, and saving natural gas to orient it toward exports, with an additional capacity of 1 gigawatt to connect to the national grid. A 10 megawatt pilot project was carried out in partnership to supply Bir Arba North field. This project is supported by a renewable research and development center. To testify our commitment to the strategy I have been describing in this talk, let me give you some number on what we have planned for the next 5 years. In terms of production, we want to continue respecting the OPEC agreement quota and stabilizing our exports volumes. We plan to allocate massive amount of investment over the next 5 years to the upstream. The total investment plan for the next 5 years is around $50 billion, from which $37 billion is dedicated to the exploration and production. The current investment plan will allow us to increase our production by almost 10% in the next 5 years, driven primarily by conventional natural gas production. In this context, We have today a new hydrocarbon law, which improved drastically the tax system attractiveness and allow us to be more attractive to foreign investors. According to the new hydrocarbon law, Sonatrach is currently discussing with several oil and gas companies, from IOCs to NOCs, to examine the possibility of jointly developing some of its major gas fields, such as Ahnet and TTK. And this through farm-outs, to enable this potential partner to carry out their technical and economic assessment of these projects. Detailed information concerning them is made available. To this end, Memorandum of Understanding and Confidentiality Agreement are signed. The project proposed to the partnership are selected for the importance of their investment and the complexity of their reservoir. And finally, the need to use advanced techniques and technologies in the field of seismic, drilling, and advanced recovery of hydrocarbons. Partners who have proposed the best development plan with the best economic offer will be selected for the farm-out. Sonatrach is also looking for partners for the implementation in Algeria of a methanol and derivative project in order to upgrade local natural gas and maximize its added value by producing high-value derivatives for local and international market. The expected partner should be experienced in terms of technology and marketing of the final products with high financing capacity. To conclude, let me highlight that we are today engaging in creating a win-win partnership, conditioned both at the energy policy level and at the business environment level, and opportunities, with the leitmotif of sharing risk and high rewards. And I thank you.
Thank you for listening this. I don't know if you have got all the presentation.
Коллеги, вся презентация, мы действительно услышали всю презентацию. Спасибо вам огромное.
Indeed, we have heard your full presentation. Thank you very much. If you can actually share this video with us, we will be very grateful. And here I would love to express my utmost gratitude to Mr. Fethi Arabi and Sonatrach as a whole. Let's continue on with the program now. The next topic we have on the agenda deals with the entry into the Nigerian market and investment projects. Unfortunately, our colleagues from Nigeria, in particular Wale Tinubu, has not been able to join this conference, but please stay tuned. We will certainly be able to meet him in the series of B2B meetings planned for the following month. This is where we wind up the plenary session. Starting from 3 p.m., we shall be running individual B2B meetings, and many of them will be held until the 10th of December. You will be able to find the actual list of your business meetings in your personal account. Me personally, I would love to wish you, I am wishing you, series of very useful, very successful meetings that will pave the way to successful business development. Thank you very much for your participation. We shall be delighted to see you in those meetings.